17 years ago, guys. 17 years ago this summer.
Don't do that.
Atlantis went on the air. Is that hard to believe? Is it hard to believe that fans are still into it almost as fervently as when it was airing? Whole new generation has been born since then that are now watching it.
People no longer say things like, I saw you on, you're in that show. They say like, oh, you're on that show my parents used to watch.
Yeah. My grandfather introduced me to the show.
Yeah,
I really love it.
Literally.
Grandfather. Come on.
It's a tough question to ask at the end of a pandemic year, because literally, apart from seeing you guys here on video screens, I've done about 2 or 3 of these things where you see people on video screens and you kind of go, okay, there's someone in Australia, there's someone in England, but you don't get a sense of connection with the fans as you would normally when you go to the events. It's more sort of evidence online, particularly since there's this story breaking that there might MGM being bought by those guys, the monopoly guy with
Amazonians.
He's
what is that true?
Yep.
Amazon buying MGM. So there's all this
from Sony.
There seems to be this. I'll just finish my point. There's this noise going on online that there's Stargate coming back. So there's evidence of activity there, but I haven't personally seen anything other than on screen, right? Because we haven't been anywhere. So the fandom thrives and survives, though, I believe.
It is amazing how it thrives and survives. And I think SG1 that went for 11 years, 10 years, 11 years, like that did a lot of the cementing of that franchise. And to me, though, it seems amazing that it's 17 years it feels longer to me. It feels like so much has happened. Like it feels forever ago. It feels another life ago.
Yeah. Feels like high school.
It kind of does. And I look at pictures now and I go, I remember I felt old then. And I look at pictures and go, I look like I was 12. I look like I was 12 years old.
That's so true. I felt like I was old then. And I look back and go, I had no idea.
I actually was 12.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, you were. It's true.
Rainbow, how old were you when you started on this show? Were you 20, 22,
23, 22,
yeah.
23.
Bambino.
Me too.
It's in vinegar.
Just a lead eye.
David Hewlett, do you
He's still a virgin.
Yeah. Is it hard to believe
for me? Yeah.
Is it hard to believe that fans are still into it? Or is it like, it's evergreen. It's always going to be like this.
It's funny. It just becomes, it's what I've always said. It's like one of those great things where it's not all the time. Like it's not everywhere you go. It's just certain places, certain times, people will sort of make that connection and you sort of see them do it. And as Jewel would say, don't make eye contact, don't make eye contact. But I really like it because, it's always nice for the ego to have someone come up and say like, oh, hey, I saw, I grew up with this or grew up with your character and stuff. And also now working with the kids, it's just kind of neat because you suddenly realize that people are doctors because of Beckett, or they're leaders in science because they saw Amanda Tapping and Stargate and stuff. So it's just kind of neat from that perspective. It's almost never a negative thing for me. The weird thing for me is that when you have a kid, there's like a physical thing that grows.
Have you also noticed that there's this kind of echo wave sort of reaction to it, depending on where it goes? Like sometimes you start getting fans from Germany, and it's like, oh, Stargate must be running in Germany now. Or
right.
They do that
in airing it again.
Yeah, they do that in Prague. I started getting sort of like a bunch of fan letters from Czech fans, and it's like you said, it's the next generation, and I'm kind of going, what's going on? And some TV station has bought it up, and they're running it, and so like that. So there are those kind of reverberations of it, but it's a show that's like 15, 20 years old now. It's a historical, we were around before the iPhone and before any of this was going, right? So it's
and Robert, you've been through this before. What's your how do you find all of it?
Well, because I'm a man of two allegiances, because I spent 7 years doing the Star Trek franchise before I was invited for a 1-episode heavy on the Stargate franchise. I just remember that qualitatively working on the show was so much looser than Star Trek is very carefully controlled because it's set in the future and they don't want any hints of, colloquial language, expressions, whatever. But Stargate felt so loosey-goosey that it felt like I got out of prison in a way. We could actually ad-lib a line, and nobody, the office didn't visit the set and say, oh, actually.
Oh, they visited. They visited.
Well, in any case, I remember feeling kind of looser. The whole experience was such a gift because normally we audition for every job we get, and to actually have kind of come in the side door on Stargate and get asked to do a guest star and to play a very unpleasant and unlikable character. And then because that night I had dinner with the two producers and they sort of decided that they liked me enough to want to have me back, then they had to figure out how to take this incredibly one-dimensional and unlikable character and sort of try to redeem him somewhat so that he could start coming back. So for me, I was obviously a Johnny-come-lately to the experience. Everybody was so nice to me, but I never got to work with Rainbow. Rainbow and I had to become friends at a convention.
Yeah, at a convention.
Rather than, on the set. And, and I came in just sort of on and off a few times and then was there just for the last season. But to me, I don't have all the shared experience that all of my wonderful co-stars have here. But as I said, to me, it was just total fun and not that I didn't like my Star Trek years, I did very much, but it just seemed so much more relaxed. And because I was more relaxed, I was able to literally laugh at every other thing David Hewlett ever said on the set.
Every other thing.
Did. I mean, every other thing. The 50% of them were hilarious, and the other 50%.
That's it. You talk enough, something's going to be funny.
No, but it was a great feeling to actually get cracked up all the time. So it was just, I remember the fun more than anything.
So we had a lot of fun. It was a ton of fun. It really was.
And it was hard to keep a straight face.
Yeah.
At all times.
Cops and robbers in space. You know what I mean? It was just like.
Well, and the other thing, because it was set in, it's very sort of like, it was of the time. So like you didn't, as you say, Robert, you didn't have all the techno stuff was all based on, it would be our reactions to it if it was happening in the real world now anyways. So
I like to think that maybe that the producers realize that this is fairy tales. These are stories for adults. So why don't we at least have fun with it, right? Humor as a part of the DNA of Stargate is kind of what set it apart from those kind of more sort of soap opera-y, deliver a line, big feeling sort of sci-fi, that to have sort of a sense of humor and at the peril that we're in is good.
When you guys came into Atlantis, for those of you who launched it, how did you feel about SG-1, which had ran 7 seasons? How did you think that this was going to work from the get-go? We're going to be doing this for 5 years. What were your impressions early on?
I thought I was going to be doing it for 5 years. No, I'm just joking. As soon as I saw the set, I thought it was going to be, it was such a glorious set, that Atlantis set. It was so beautiful. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, they upgraded from SG-1. And I made fun of all the guys for their set because they had no AC and it was all cramped. And I was like, look at this. Look at our high ceilings. How beautiful is this?
Well, I remember Rainbow being there and you're like, oh, this is amazing. That's where I'm going to DJ up there at the party.
Yeah. I was breakdancing in front of the gate.
When you got there, you had the distinct feeling, I think all of us did, that this is not going anywhere. I mean, there are building stages like this for it to be one season, Exactly. So that was the exciting part, and especially Robert Patrick being in the pilot, and it just had a real big energy of this is going to go a while. It's like it had almost like an epic feel, like certainly the 2-parter that we started with. Just so many people involved, so many moving parts. So it just felt really special. It was cool to be part of.
I always assumed we were going to get canceled every time. So that was, I just assumed every year. The only year I thought, well, there is no freaking way they're not doing season 6. It's the only time I was ever wrong.
Thanks for watching this clip from Dial the Gate. You can find the full live stream shows on our YouTube channel or visit dialthegate.com for the complete schedule. See you on the other side.